All the time we're asked, what is the best way to get started in real estate?
It's easy.
It's easy. Not hard.
Have rich parents.
We didn't have those, and you probably don't either. So we're gonna go over one way that we feel is the best strategy.
Exactly, and now's a great time for you to like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment guessing what that strategy is gonna be. All right, so you guys might be wondering what we're doing in this kind of rough looking property right now.
I know I am.
So this is actually a 2-family house. I love this place. I think this place has a lot of potential, and we're already kind of getting to that potential.
Yeah, so we have basically a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house on the first floor. And then on the second floor, which is occupied by a tenant, that is also a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. So yeah. Yeah,
so basically somebody's gonna live in this apartment, in a nice 3-bedroom, fully renovated apartment. And they're gonna have somebody above them as a neighbor. And that apartment, it's a regular 2-family, not a side-by-side duplex, but it's not
2-family, exactly, yep.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we're installing all new windows, flooring, I put up a sheetrock, insulating, kind of going through the whole unit pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, this house is getting the works. This is gonna be a really nice apartment by the time we're finished with it. And the really cool thing about it is people are gonna be living in an apartment here and maybe living for basically free, or pretty darn close to it. That's pretty awesome.
Whereas normally we're buying these, we're renovating them, and we're renting them completely out for a rental portfolio, we do often. We're doing a different kind of caveat on this one, where we have a different end result.
And I think that's really, really awesome. And I mean, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of people, I rented for many years, so did you. I mean, we lived in apartments like this, in multi-family houses, and we had to pay rent. And that doesn't go anywhere. That's just burned money. It's not going to equity. It's not getting anything for you for your future. But somebody's going to be able to actually live in this apartment and have almost no cost of living to do it. That's pretty awesome.
And building equity on top of that,
right? And
possibly jump-starting their real estate empire.
That's a huge part of it, right? When you have almost no cost of living and you're actually building an equity savings account, we'll call it. Think of what that's going to do for you in 5 years or 10 years, or when you get to be your age.
Whoa. Or yours. Who's older?
Still younger than Tom Brady. That's what I always tell everybody. All right, I get it. One of the things people always talk about is how hard it is to buy a house, how impossible it is right now to buy a property. We're in a housing crisis. I mean, they've been saying this stuff for years. It's really easy to come up with reasons you can't.
Right? I mean, they say that every cycle. I mean, it gets to the top and, oh my God, no one can buy a house, no one can buy a house. But I mean, people find ways to buy houses. And find ways to buy houses.
And we share those ways with you guys. So that's exactly what we want to share with you today is, first of all, how you can do this almost step by step, and that it really is an actual reality for you.
Yes.
So how did we get this house, right? We must have had those rich parents or a bag full of money or we hit the lottery or whatever. No, we're in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
And we bought this house for a fraction of what it was worth.
And that was through a foreclosure auction, which we're not going to go into here. That's not what the video is about.
Right.
If you want to learn more, there's definitely a link up below that you can check that video about.
Yeah, we wrote the book on foreclosures. We're happy to teach you all about it. But today we want to teach you more about what to do with a property once you snagged an amazing deal at a foreclosure
100%.
auction. Basically stole a house. You got an amazing deal at a foreclosure auction because 2 guys taught you how to do that. Now, what do you do with it? How can you make that house really change your life?
Well, this is basically house hacking, and I want to go through a personal story of my own about how I did this. Fortunately, not early on, I wish I had. I have snagged a single-family house from a foreclosure auction for a steal, by the way. I was really happy. I think it was $76,000 for a 2,300 square foot, little nice house that I got on the water. Beautiful. Now, by the way, it needed a lot of work.
I would say beautiful, I don't think would be the right word to use, but sure.
Well, if you go through all the overgrowth, you can kind of see the house.
Yeah, the priests come through, do the exorcism, get all the spirits out.
Fair enough, yeah.
God, please, Lord, help me to release this demon.
Put in a little elbow grease into the house, fixing it up, doing all this, normal stuff we talk about, finding value add stuff. I think that's important. Besides all that, the other value add I found was mine had a walkout basement.
Yeah.
And I was like, what can I do with this? I mean, it's a usable space. I don't need more bedrooms. It's me and my wife. I mean, how many bedrooms do 2 people need? We were coming up and scheming ideas of what we could do with the basement. And I'm like, of course, from my thing, make some money from this. Let's cover our mortgage payments. Why not? Why wouldn't we do that?
The entrepreneurial spirit right there.
Heck,
that all of our followers have that. That's why they're here.
Well, and some of our followers might also have a significant other that would be like, hell no, do I want people living in my house?
Yeah.
So there was a little coaxing I had to do with my wife, but she came around, and I think she loves it now, and she actually runs the whole thing, which is kind of
even
awesome.
better. Yeah.
But we basically took the basement unit.
That's the ultimate hack right there. Get somebody else to do it for you.
And hey, do what we gotta do. We basically took the basement unit, renovated it into an Airbnb space, because once again, it's not legally a two-family, so that we couldn't rent it out normally because we don't have that zoning. But there is another avenue. Is if your area allows, Airbnb can be a great avenue, or BRRRR, or one of those short-term rentals. So we converted that basement space into a rental unit, and it's now been 5 years that we've been renting it out. And it covers more than our mortgage. Actually, it covers a good portion of the taxes, insurance, and all of our utility costs.
That's fantastic.
And so now I'm living in this beautiful house that was fully renovated. I have most of my expenses on the house covered. I was able to then basically put a HELOC on the house. That is now allowing me to buy more rental property for our little portfolio that we got going on here, and as well as keep my expenses down so I can save more money and then go back into buying more property, and then kind of keep that snowball going.
Nice.
And if this was something I had started way back when we first started, back in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
We had started it then, as opposed to renting an apartment, which we did as well for so long. I think it would have actually projected us further faster.
Absolutely.
Because we would have had the equity to use. We would have had less expenses.
Instead, we were living in one of our rental apartments.
Yes.
And using our office, my living room, your living room at one point as an office space, things like that.
That was fun.
Yep. And so now, obviously, with this situation here that we're talking about today, this might not be used as an Airbnb for somebody to rent out the other unit. This is a two-family house. They're going to be using it where it's set up with a tenant already in it. That tenant's under contract, they're paying monthly rent, and they're going to live in the other unit, nicely renovated. And it's like living in an apartment, but the other tenant is essentially paying your bills.
Exactly. I mean, a house hack doesn't have to be necessarily an Airbnb inside. It's just basically using your house to create another renewable revenue source that will then offset some of your income, or all of your income, for a lot of these situations. And so typically you're looking at a 2-family or a 3 or up to 4-family typically, so you can get a conventional loan, maybe an FHA loan, so that you get that lower rate as well as longer terms. And that's where these things can be fantastic ways, like this 2-family we're in here, that we're hoping to help someone else jumpstart their, and maybe they don't want to buy anymore. Maybe they just want to live in their house, get it paid off, and have almost no overhead, which is great, and just be kind of coax through life and kind of have that going for them, which is definitely a great way to go about it. But like many of our followers, how can they start their career? This can be one of the best ways to get jumpstart into real estate. I wholeheartedly do that.
100% agree. And for a lot of people who are asking themselves right now, gosh, I don't really want to live in an apartment. I want to buy a house. I don't want other people living in it with me, etc. That's fine. You might want that, but this would be the stepping stone you can get to springboard yourself to that.
Baby steps.
And in the meantime, make yourself really an amazing deal. You're going to have a very low cost of living for what you're essentially doing right now, which is probably renting an apartment, maybe a multifamily home. You're sharing a property anyway with somebody. Why not have that be your property and have somebody else footing the bill for it? The other thing people are going to ask, I'm sure, is, do I really want to deal with tenants? Is it a nightmare? Do tenants have all these ridiculous rights that are stripped away from the property owners? And that's very understandable. In fact, they probably saw some of our bad tenant videos. But that's what we teach again on our channels about tenant screening and how to respect your rights and your responsibilities as a property owner, so that you can learn this stuff before you just leap into it.
And I mean, one possible scenario that you could do as well is hire a third-party management and basically not be known that you are the owner. You're just another tenant in the building. That is a kind of sneaky way of doing it.
Could you imagine in your own property doing a house hack? You walk out to get your mail and you start talking to the neighboring tenant.
That damn landlord.
And sit there and complain about your landlord. That would be the ultimate thing. Oh my God. Now that's a video we need to make for a channel.
I love to do that.
Right. Hopefully they remember to tip their landlord appropriately.
Ooh.
Okay, what else do we have to tell them about this property right here while we're checking it out? Is there anything you want to show them? Do you want to show them some of the renovations? Anything like that?
Sure. I mean, like as we do, one of the big things that we're doing in Massachusetts, because the big thing here is making sure they are lead safe. So we're going through and replacing all the windows. Often these older windows have lead paint. If you don't know a lot about that, definitely check out the laws in your area. But we find it's really important to have our units and the properties that we're selling that are lead safe. And so we kind of went through all that. We replaced baseboards, trim. That's where you'll see it a lot, and as well as the windows. We also insulated all the walls because it was all lath and plaster, and we pulled it down and just hollow.
Yeah. So we can afford to do all this because we got this property for an absolute steal. This came from a foreclosure auction, like we talked about, and we budgeted to do a lot of these renovations. When we factored all that stuff in, it came up with our bidding price. So this wasn't like, oh no, gosh, we all of a sudden have to do a lot of expensive work. Where are we going to get the money for that? This was all part of the budget. Now, for those of you watching at home and wondering, okay, that's great, but where am I going to get the money to buy a property at auction, all that cash, and the rehab budget for it, when I'm barely making my monthly rental payments right now? How am I going to end the situation that I'm in and transition into a house hack? Generally, you need a lot of money to do that, right?
Well, not necessarily. If you use what's called the Burr Strategy, which we talked about in this video here, I kind of go into more depth on that, but just basically finding a property that you can buy, such as a foreclosure auction at a discount, and then leveraging possibly a partner or a hard money loan, more likely than not, for a house hack. And then you put in some sweat equity. I mean, maybe you have to, scrub your elbow, scrub down and get, dirty a little bit.
Sure.
And then you will go to basically rent out the second floor, or maybe it's already rented out. And you can then come in, and local bank typically, or a portfolio lender, and do a cash out refinance, they're calling it, so that you can then pull out your capital, pay off that hard money lender. Maybe you don't put money in your pocket, maybe you do.
You don't need to be greedy about it, right? Exactly. I mean, just be happy to pay the hard money lender back. They're squared up. You've got a regular conventional mortgage now, and you've got a tenant that's covering a huge chunk of it or more than.
Correct. Now you're living in a new renovated house for yourself and your family, and keeping your expenses low. Yeah,
so there you go. There's a great strategy that people can do and are literally doing right now today while you're writing your rent check to your landlord. Hopefully you'll learn from some of this.
Right. We're landlords, right? So you're telling people to stop being. Don't we want someone? We don't want to
We can't be putting ourselves out of business.
I know this.
Well, we're not just landlords. We're not just doing that. And honestly, we love it when we have great long-term tenants turn into property owners.
We do, and especially if we can sell them some of that.
That's why we love it. So again, if you're watching this channel because you are a property owner, or you're somebody that wants to get out of the 9-to-5 grind, or if you're somebody that's renting an apartment and you want to see what other kind of options you have out there, hopefully you've liked and subscribed and watched some of our other stuff.
Better have.
But hopefully this video found you in the algorithm.
We're coming out with 2 new videos every week.
Victory Screech!
So make sure you stay tuned for more videos and hit that notification icon.
And follow us on all the socials as Two Guys Take on Real Estate. And if you haven't gotten enough of seeing our ugly mugs, you can find it on the back cover of our book jacket called Foreclosures Unlocked. Teaches you everything we know from our experience of going to thousands of auctions and buying hundreds of properties like this one at foreclosure auction.